What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Ed Gasket. On this episode, it's all about not crying. That's right, guys. This is not clickbait. That is my 911 sitting right behind me that we bought, a month ago at auction? It's already sold, and technically, I don't even own it anymore. Now, if you're like most people, myself included, the next most reasonable question to ask is, of course, why? So why don't I review with you the top 3 reasons why I was likely the shortest 911 owner in recent time. So the first reason is because this YouTube channel is all about buying, fixing, driving, and selling cars, trucks, motorcycles, 3-wheelers if you've been here long enough. And of course, that's exactly what we did with this car. We bought it, fixed it, drove it, and now we've sold it. Now, the only downside to all of that is that I did it over maybe 30 days or less, where I actually anticipated having this car for a few months. So it was a short ride while it lasted. There's also no room whatsoever in the back seat. Although that's not really a problem because no one's ever asked me to go for a ride. My feet are stuck. Now, the second reason why I sold my 911 is because of a very specific phenomenon known very well to the 911 community as Intermix. Now, when someone talks about Intermix with a Porsche 911, they're talking about the mixing of oil with antifreeze or coolant. And the reason this is bad is not only because these two substances fail to mix, they should never see each other in a 911 motor. And the parts of your motor and other areas on the car that are designed to come in contact with engine coolant are definitely not designed to come in contact with oil. Now, there are only a few reasons for a 911 to suffer from this intermix problem. The first is rather simple and has to do with a failing oil cooler. The second is also fairly simple and has to do with a failing air oil separator. And the third is not so simple and has to do with a crack in the cylinder or a crack in the cylinder head. Ouch. Now, although potential problems 1 and 2 were just a few $100s in parts, remember the engine on a Porsche 911 is in the back, and if you've ever had to work on one of these cars, you learn pretty quickly that there's not much room to get anything accomplished. Now, some people will even convince you that you have to remove the motor from the back of the car to accomplish just about any of the tasks that require access to the engine. Now, if you've been here for even just a few videos, you would know that this YouTube channel is all about fixing things that are broken. So why didn't I just fix what was broken? Now, of course, I enjoy a good project that requires engine work, but I bought this 911 under the assumption that it had front end damage, and I wanted to learn how to do body work. So I bought this 911, completed the bodywork task, and then I was ready to sell it when I realized that it had a few other problems. Now, I had already been working on acquiring a new project, and I just don't have the room in the workshop for 2 projects at once. So one of them had to go, of course, that being the 911. Now, I know what you're thinking. If I have a car that has a potentially serious problem with the motor, why would I go ahead and sell it to somebody else and potentially screw over the next buyer? So let me show you how I sold this car and how I avoided doing just that. Yep, you guessed it, we sold our vehicle on eBay, and if you scroll to the middle of the page, you'll find the description, and right there in the middle of the description is where I explain that this car has a mixing of oil and coolant, and I even go into what are the possible causes and the costs associated to fixing such a problem. Now, this can't be a channel about buying, fixing, driving, and flipping cars without sharing with you what I have into this vehicle financially. Now, not only what I paid for it at the auction, because I know I've shared that with you in the past, but what's involved in getting this vehicle to our house, so like a delivery fee, an auction fee, what's involved in getting the paperwork in your name, like a title transfer, and what's involved in buying all of the parts to get this thing to look the way it does today. And then, of course, most importantly, what I sold this car for. So the car cost me $16,000. I was actually called out for paying more than $16,000 for this car, but here's the screen recording where I paid $16,000 for the car. It cost me $300 in auction fees just to bid. Cost me about $700 to get this car delivered to our house. This was actually the first time I saw this car in real life. And it cost me another $700 just in parts for this vehicle and things to make the paint look really shiny. So that, of course, means I'm about $18,000 into this 1999 Porsche 911. $1999 and $18,000. This has to be one of the only cars made in 1999 worth $18,000. I'd like to fact check myself on that statement where I said the 1999 Porsche 911 was the only car currently worth $18,000, because that statement was a lie. The list of cars from 1999 that are currently worth more than $18,000 includes, but is not limited to, the Pagani Zonda, the Lamborghini Diablo VT, the Lamborghini Diablo GT, the Ferrari 360, the Nissan Skyline GTR, multiple Lotuses, or Loti if you will, a Mercedes CLR, followed by a long list of likely many cars that you'll make me aware of in the comments section. Well, I don't know if it's worth $18,000, but that's what it cost me. So this is the part where I tell you that we sold our 911 for $18,000 and $600. $18,600. Now, of course, that's a far cry from the $25,000 price tag that most of these 911s carry. But of course, hopefully if you're spending full price $25,000 on a 911, you don't have the Intermix issues that our car had. Now, I was totally upfront with the new owner. Of course, from day one, all we talked about was this mixing issue and the potential problems that it could have down the road. Now, he was totally cool with it. He actually drove the car home from Philadelphia down to Florida, and he had no problems whatsoever. But I did tell him from the get-go that I actually didn't recommend that he did that, and of course, he didn't care, and he did it. Guys, the third reason why I got rid of my Porsche 911 is simply because I enjoy the chase more than I enjoy having the darn thing. I mean, it was a really cool time trying to find a cheap car that was a really fast car and fun to drive. And honestly, of all the cars I've ever driven, that was probably the most fun to drive. And I've driven a lot of cars. I mean, just so many cars. Now, once you bring the car home, you figure out what's wrong with it, and you fix it, and you found that you had a really good deal on your hands, the show's kind of over. And for me, at least, the fun starts again once I get back on the internet, back on Copart, back on Insurance Auto Auctions, back on Auto Tempest, looking, searching, and ultimately finding that next great sports car or motorcycle or truck or whatever it may be for our garage. Hey everybody, if you've been following along on my YouTube channel, you know that I just bought and repaired a Porsche 911, which is a really cool project. You should go check it out. But I just sold the car, and that's why I'm walking home. I could order an Uber, but I don't know if you can bring ice cream in an Uber. Guys, if you enjoyed the 911 series, be sure to subscribe to Ed Gasket, where we're always selling our projects as soon as we're finished with them because we thought they would be more satisfying, and if we maybe buy the next project, maybe it'll offer more fulfillment. Be sure to hit up Ed Gasket Garage on Instagram if you want updated content between YouTube videos. Otherwise, guys, if you need us between now and our next video where we will be revealing our latest build, we'll be in the garage.